everybody, and welcome to the Wicked Bee of the West YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Stephanie Diana Eubank. I teach business administration over at Stan State. I am also the sole proprietor of Wicked Bee of the West Business Consulting. So, as we come to the close of the series on the different types of isolation that employees are dealing with and that have traditionally only really been researched with regards to in-person or sorry, remote workers. And we are now seeing how these types of issues are affecting not just remote workers, but in-person and hybrid workers. We come to the topic of specifically geographical isolation or temporal isolation. This specifically arises when teams are dispersed across regions, countries, or continents. Again, we see this a lot in mixed modality and in remote workplaces, but we are also starting to see a really interesting trend within this issue with regards to in-person, remote, and hybrid work. Specifically, subject matter experts are often working remote, which is normal and has been the case for almost 20 years now. However, we are now seeing remote work becoming also a status symbol where leadership is choosing to be remote, but wanting those who are actually doing the work to be in person. So that leadership is remote and is coming in digitally and rarely ever visually there, which is causing issues specifically as far as leadership versus followership. And this is causing interesting issues as far as leadership members being dispersed across the state, across the country, even when their workers are all on site and not being able to come in, especially when there's an emergency. And this is now creating an interesting disconnect and dynamic with regards to those who are in the followership role, those actually doing the work, and those in the leadership role. This is fascinating to me, especially when during my dissertation, when interviewing the focus group of remote leaders versus those in the focus group of remote followers. Remote leaders, more than not, said how they hated remote work, but were not willing to give up remote work, but that they wanted their employees to be in person and that they couldn't wait for people to be back in person. Not all leaders said this, but the majority in that particular focus group did. All of those in followership, even those who did not enjoy working remote, specified that they would not ever give up remote and they would rather leave and go to another company that was willing to give them remote work versus going back in person, even if they preferred in person because they enjoyed the flexibility provided by remote work. Leadership in that focus group also had pointed out the preference of having their those in the followership roles in person while they coordinate and work remotely. So again, this is going to be a continued form of hierarchy within organizations that is going to become more and more glaring and it can create a divide between those who are in person doing the work and those who are remote and hybrid, which is a fascinating issue that companies are going to need to address. And it's interesting because with remote work, we see a rise in what is called shared leadership, where basically middle management is no longer necessary because the team starts taking on shared leadership in a remote paradigm. So, especially as we move into further into this digital age with the utilization of AI and programming becoming more and more required and more jobs being able to be translated into a remote modality, we're going to see a very interesting movement where middle management is going to be a thing that we talk about historically versus something that's actively encouraged within organizations because of this divide. And again, it's not just remote Followers, but remote leaders are also pointing out, even if they don't enjoy remote work, they enjoy the benefits of it. So there needs to be a real coming to Jesus conversation about organizations and starting to work on a remote first and overall development of their remote work, because that is, in fact, the future of work. That's all I have for you today. Remember, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. And as always, remember, remote work, it's here to stay.